You're listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 216. I'm your host, Colleen Mitchell. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Today, Dave Chesson is back to do a deeper dive into Publisher Rocket, which, if you're watching this on YouTube, this is the screen share of that. This is a keyword and category research tool that's helping authors improve their Amazon rankings. For more about Dave and to get a high level overview of all of Kindlepreneur's author tools, you can go back to episode 206. So, Dave, welcome back.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, can you give a quick recap of who you are and what you do for people who haven't heard of you before?
Yeah, sure. Well, so I'm Dave Chesson, and it's funny is years ago, if years and years ago, if you'd asked me I'd be an author, I probably would have said no, because I grew up with dyslexia and I've always struggled with writing. But it doesn't mean that the story inside of you dies and you just let that go. And so years ago, I decided that I wanted to create an author career. I wanted to become an author. I didn't just want to write one book. I wanted to write many books. And when I decided to do that, I took the book marketing side of it very serious, because I wanted to be able to leave the military and come home to my kids and be home and write and make enough money to take care of the family. So I needed to understand kind of the revenue side and how do I get my books in front of more people. And because of that, it started a journey of trying to understand exactly what makes Amazon tick. Why did they choose to show this person's book more so than mine? How can I get my book in front of the right readers? I know I've done a good job of writing a good book, crafting a good cover and everything. I just need people to see it. And when I started that entire research project and learning, I realized at the time, there wasn't much out there about it. And so I created kindlepreneur.com, a website where every one of my articles is a lesson. Teaching people how to do something, giving them practical advice that they can turn around and take action on. And because of all of that, I started building tools that just made life easier for authors. Whether it's from the free book description generator to, the ISBN code generator to all these things where as an author, I always said, oh man, wouldn't it be nice if? And so luckily I have access to a lot of great programmers and we were able to put together tools that have just made self-publishing that much better. So that's really a big part of it. And one of my biggest and most favorite pieces is Publisher Rocket.
I will say, I told my friends about the free barcode generator, and they're like, "No way!" So they're very excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun because being in the weeds myself and always trying to keep my finger on the pulse of what Amazon's doing. Why does Amazon tick? They don't stay static. There's a lot of improvements for them, maybe sometimes not for us, that exist. And then having a programming team at my disposal allows me to, as an author, say, "Boy, wouldn't it be nice if?" And that's
Hmm.
really been how many things that I've created have started. Was just from that as an author having a pain point and thinking, "Boy, wouldn't it be nice if?"
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So last time we talked, last time when we covered Publisher Rocket, we talked mostly about how the metadata helps authors how that research helps feed the Amazon algorithm, and specifically we talked about the reverse ASIN research tool. But when I open this up, as people who are watching on YouTube can see, we have keyword search, competition analyzer, category search, and then Amazon ads and reverse ASIN lookup. Would it be fair to say that the most used are the first three over here?
It used to be the first three, but now the most used is becoming the reverse ASIN lookup.
Ah,
Just because I
okay.
think it's really become the cheat code for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so to give kind of people an understanding, so the keyword research was my first feature that I created. And by the way, for those who don't know, when I first came out with this, it would be a lot different than it is today. And as I add new features, new improvements, new capabilities, it's always a free upgrade for people who purchased it in the past. So a lot of people have benefited from they just got it for the one thing, and then it's now got even more that it does. And we have lots of really cool things coming out too in the future. But the keyword search was back in the day. Authors, when they got to their 7 KDP keyword boxes, they would have to just start kind of guessing and writing things in. And most people would choose really broad terms that wouldn't help Amazon in any way, shape, or form. So like fantasy, you know, romance, like these kind of phrases. It's like that doesn't help.
Like
On
if I
top of that,
did this, put in
yeah,
fantasy, type it, I can spell fantasy and click go get 'em rocket. It's just it's there's a lot. Fantasy books for adults, fantasy romance. You just
Yes.
click on
And
these things to
from Amazon's perspective too, if I type in fantasy, okay, into Amazon's search bar, what are the chances that Amazon is going to immediately know that, oh, here's the right type of fantasy, right? I mean,
right.
if you think about it before we kind of get into this, just to give people an understanding, most people will go to Amazon and type in something like that, and then it's not going to show them the type of book they want. So then they'll add more words to it. So it'll be like, fantasy, epic adventure, and then, well, okay, now they'll realize, well, I want some romance in it. So they'll put a romance term in there, and so what people end up doing is they start adding all these different types of phrases that help to describe the book until finally there's one single phrase that shows them the exact kind of book that they want. And then from there, they're making their purchases. And a majority of the sales that come from a search on Amazon does not come from a term like fantasy. It comes from, say like um, a Victorian second chance romance with family,
Mm.
right? Each element. And that actually drives a lot more conversions than some broad term. And so, one of the things that I wanted to do, and this is where this keyword search feature came in, was people would type in, say, fantasy. And then I want the system to help them to understand that there's more words or phrases. And so, if we build off of that, you can start to see the strings of phrases that combine to make something really good. So, think of this as like your, okay, help me get started in seeing. And every phrase that's on the left is something that Amazon has typed or that a shopper has typed into Amazon, okay, in a significant enough, so enough where Amazon has labeled it. And what I mean by that is you can't just go into Amazon and type in, capucha maca, you know, thank to or something like that. Okay. Some made up words. And then do it enough. And then Amazon's like, well, I guess this is something we should remember. No, Amazon kind of calls that out. They're like, no.
Mm.
A lot of people have typed in, like, for example, they have a character name of one of their books and they search for their book through that, and Amazon will not register it.
Yeah.
So Amazon just doesn't allow all these things. But our system has collected all the things that they register as legitimate keywords that they track that they think are important. And I think that's important for our authors to understand too, is because if Amazon tracks and understands it, and you're able to line with it, that really helps out. So on this feature, we take what you type in and we help you to come up with ideas by presenting you with more terms that people really type into Amazon. What I recommend to people in this case is that you start to, um, as you click, yep, go get a rocket, it's going to try to find different variations because that's a very specific phrase you put in there instead of something broad. If you start with something specific, it's going to show all these other ways that it's been. So, like widow, second chance romance. Actually, that's a really good one. I haven't seen that one before. British second chance romance, right? Now, this one that we just analyzed, okay, what's great is we know that all the words on the left have been searched, okay, that they exist. And Amazon likes to put books in front of people who search for this. But what's beautiful about this feature is you can now actually see how much money books are making that show up for that. You can see how many people are actually searching that exact phrase. And you can also see what are the chances I could get my book to rank number one for that. So if you did write a book about a widow who's looking for second chance romance, that's right now you would say, okay, the average number of pages for a book like that's 2000 or 252. There's about 3,000 books that are associated with this phrase, according to Amazon. The price is pretty low, which means that what you're probably seeing is there's a lot of KU books in there.
Oh.
The average monthly earnings, though, $104, you might say to yourself, boy, that's not a lot. Like, that's not going to make or break me. But remember, that's only one phrase, and your book can rank for lots of phrases. So if when you start to add up, say, 7, 8, 9, 10 different phrases, that can really at least get your foot in the door, get your book in front of the right shoppers. And then finally, the competition score like is a 1 through 100, with one being super easy to rank number one for, and 100 being near impossible. So you can see kind of information and start to understand, hey, boy, that phrase is perfect for my book. It doesn't have a lot of search. You can start to make really strong analytical decisions instead of just random guesses and see what happens. So going through keyword search, you can start to learn about opportunities that exist. You can discover. But one of the things that we kept having people say to me is, "Well, Dave, it is some work. I'm typing things in. I'm clicking analyze. I'm looking. I'm thinking. I'm still not sure. Is this good or is this not? Wouldn't it be nice if I could just know what keywords another book benefits from, right?"
Yep.
Then it's easy. And so that's why, while the keyword search is a great feature, that's why everybody's starting to really pick up on reverse ASIN lookup. And we call it reverse ASIN is because what you do is you find the ASIN number of a book, you put it into the reverse ASIN feature, and it will then tell you all the instances on Amazon that that book has shown up for and shown up decent. Okay, so not like it's number 3,000,
Okay.
but that it's been on at least the first page, second page of Amazon, so it's had some benefit there. And so now you can start to see what drove, what keyword phrase drove shoppers to the book. And then you can start looking for ones that fit your book. So if you have an ASIN number or an ISBN 10, you can put it in here. One thing I will say, there's really some fun benefits to this feature. Number one is that if you've already published a book, go ahead and put it through this feature. Now, you may be shocked to see what Amazon showed you for, okay? I have found that this is one of the, if I'm ever coaching or assisting somebody, okay, on their book, the first thing I do is I put their book through the system. And then I start looking at the keywords and I start asking myself, okay, why did Amazon get this wrong? Okay. And then on top of that, too, is why. So the first thing is, why did Amazon get this wrong? What I mean by that is you will find keyword phrases that don't fit. Like for example, somebody once wrote a recipe book, okay? And it was actually a dietary recipe book, but out of fun they called it boot camp, like
Mm.
weight loss boot camp, or whatever, recipe book. And they had some fun little terms in there that were, you know, military to an extent. The problem is they went a little too overboard on that. And so their book started showing up for more military related stuff than actual recipe or diet. And so we were able to kind of say, okay, here's why, because the Amazon algorithm looked at your book, looked at your metadata, and started saying, oh, this must be a military book. And so the book was just lost. Another time I was working with an author who's a paranormal romance author, and they had a run-on joke, and they'd had used a couple of words that were very zombie apocalypse type.
Oh, yeah.
But the problem was that it wasn't a zombie apocalypse. It was just a weird, storm, and they were trapped in a library. Um, and the person was like, was actually kind of mad at the feature, saying, "My book's not a zombie apocalypse. Why is it saying?" And then, sure enough, we were like, "Okay, well, let's look at it." And it was like, honestly, I'm confused. It really reads like it's a zombie apocalypse. It's like, well, no, no, I didn't mean that. When I was talking about the hordes, I was saying this. And I was like, and the person kept joking, it's not a zombie apocalypse. And I'm like, I get it, but the Amazon system really messed this up because you put so many things that made the Amazon calculation see it for what that is.
Yeah.
So I'd love to put it through the reverse ASN feature to figure out, how did Amazon see my book and what did they do with it? The second thing is if I don't see anything that's niche, okay, so like very descriptive, if all I see is just broad terms or regular terms like my title and just my author name and the word fantasy, or then what it tells me is I didn't do a good job on my keywords because
Mm.
Amazon did not know what to do with it. Okay. So, an example I like to tell people is, imagine that you're sending your book to a bookstore. Okay. And you write instructions on where the bookstore owner should put your book in their bookstore. Okay. Here's the difference, right? If the bookstore owner picks up the slip and reads about the book, and they really don't know what to do with it, what do? They just stick it in a broad area. They might even stick it in miscellaneous. But the point is, they are not going to put it in the right spot in their store where the right shopper will find it. They will not put it with the book cover facing out. They'll just put it where the spine is showing. They won't put it at the end of the aisle. They won't put it on the recommended desk. They won't put it in the front of the store. However, though, if they read it and they really know what the book is about, they're like, oh, great, I know exactly where I should put that. Then they will put it there. And that means the right shoppers will know to go there, and the right shoppers will find it and they'll buy it. And this is exactly what's happening. So The reverse ASIN feature is a fun way to see, well, what did Amazon think? So if they put me in the wrong spots, then what tipped them off that way? If they put me in super broad spots, it means they didn't know what to do with my metadata, my keywords. And so now we authors can actually start to self-diagnose and figure out, what is and isn't.
So for people who are watching YouTube and also if you're listening, I have my ISBN for my first book in here, and I've never done this before, so this is live. I'm gonna click go get 'em rocket on the. Oh, it's not an ASIN. Does it
Yep.
want my
It's either got to be an ISBN 10 or an ASIN.
does it want the dashes?
No, shouldn't be.
Oh, that's weird. Maybe I should have saved my ASIN. Hold please, your call is very important to us.
Now, as she's doing that, one of the really cool things about it is that you can also, I love the feature because, like I said on the keyword search, many people didn't know where to start, or, it's like, I know what my book's about. I just don't know how to verbalize or come up with these things, and I can't find things. What's great about this is just go find like, five books that are similar to yours. Okay. Put them in here and just start looking at what worked for them and what didn't work for them and start going through. So, okay. So what we did is we brought in the book, uh, Mark of the Stars, right?
Mark of
And
stars.
now, Mark of Stars, excuse me. And the key is that what we'll start to do is we want to scroll through and we want to see, what's up. So you'll see the title, and you'll also see this particular metadata. So in this case, you'll see the author name. So people have searched Colleen Mitchell. Books with audio Colleen. So
Hmm.
not sure if that was a tie-in to something, because sometimes it's fun to look up like what exactly is that product.
Oh,
And so
okay.
Amazon, that might be something like books, maybe a audio Colleen is somebody or something. And then when you start to look at it, you'll feel like, oh, okay, it might have put me in there. Um, it's interesting that the word poster keeps
Yeah.
coming up.
I have no idea why.
Pain quote poster. It means that your book showed up for the term pain quote poster, which is weird because that's not a book term.
Yeah.
See? That's why it says NA, because we don't read if it's a product. So your book showed up in a physical product search result, and a couple of them, Boolean poster. Something is driving Amazon to think that this should be associated with posters.
I wonder if it has to do with the book cover, though, because I've gotten feedback that it's not like a typical book cover with, because most book covers have the title like in the middle or really big, and mine's kind of small at the top.
Yeah. Well, this is weird
I
because
stumped him.
Amazon, well, no, Amazon should know. So here's what Amazon will do, okay? Sometimes, and by the way, I will say, just gonna be open and honest here on this. Um, this shows the fact that you only have one page of keywords, which by the way, when you put in like books, um, usually I see at least two or three pages. See that there's the number one on the bottom. That means you
Yeah.
can't paginate, so go through the different. Usually I see at least two or three or four. Definitely ones where it's got 15 different pages. So this is a very limited number of keywords. And what it tells me is that Amazon didn't know what to do with the book. And somehow it's associated that people who are in search of like what science quotes or Harry Styles quote. I don't know why Harry Styles is in there. That's
Me
wild.
neither.
Sword and sorcery, poster, like inspiration, like it threw it into that.
Hmm.
And so what that tells, and sometimes we will see like I've shopped for like dog food, and they'll put in a book that shows up for dog food on like how to raise dogs or how to train dogs. Like, okay, they'll throw in a book randomly with an associated product. So the way that I interpret this is that Amazon has somehow thought they didn't really know where to put it as a book itself. However, they did say there's inspiration, so people are looking at these products. Let's just see if that connects with some people. So this feels like it was more or less like a Hail Mary type attempt on their part. And I would almost say that what I'm seeing from this is Amazon's not doing a lot of the lifting for your book sales.
So that begs the question, if I go through and I fix the things that are wrong with it, how long
Yeah.
would it take Amazon to basically work it back through the algorithm? Like, how long would it take
How
for
long
updates to show up?
how long has this book been published?
This one has been out for almost 5 years.
Okay. Then what I would do, so generally speaking, when you first publish your book, Amazon pays more attention to it, right?
Hmm.
It gives it more love, respect, that sort of thing. Which, by the way, our system wasn't tracking your book 5 years ago. There might have been better keywords that would have shown up for when it first
Oh,
launched.
okay.
This system only started tracking about 3, 4 years ago. So there is a good chance that what happened was you did show up for some good keywords. But since 3, 4 years ago, this is all it's shown up for. And that's it. So it might be one of those things. Now, when you first publish your book, Amazon will actually go through and they'll start to actually like really check, and they're always checking, they're always trying to make things happen. But then after about the first month or so, then they start to slack off. Unless your book
Mm.
is doing really good, then they'll keep looking at it. So that's why a lot of authors will see this whole like first month, is they call it the honeymoon period, right?
Ah,
This is
okay.
amazing, and then all of a sudden it kind of dies off because Amazon stops doing all this work about it. So if you are beyond a month and you want to change up your keywords, that's fine. You still have enough latent popularity that you can make changes and they'll take notice of it. However, though, if say a book like this that has been out for 5 years, I would definitely redo my keywords. And then what I would do is do something to drive a little bit of popularity to it, whether that's
Okay.
setting up some Amazon ads or sending out a blast, getting a couple to buy. Because what ends up happening is that when people show up to purchase the book, okay, they will then um, it sends a signal to Amazon, hey, something's going on with this book that is
Okay.
abnormal. Is it trending? Is it taking off? Is there something popular about it? And so the system will then actually look at your book and start to do things and say, oh, wait, the keywords have changed. Huh. Let's just play around and see what happens. And then what you'll see is if you came back, let's say a week after you did that, you can come back and you'll see more keywords that show up because you'll see what happened. And then from there, like I said, that can kickstart it. So to
Okay.
recap on what we said, if you're a brand new book that just came out and you're changing, you should be fine. You don't have to do anything. If it's an older book and you're changing stuff up, you should do something that injects sales or popularity so that Amazon will then take and pay attention to it and try to do something with it.
Good to know. Okay.
Because honestly, the way to look at it is Amazon might be saying to themselves, like, I know what that book's about. You know, yeah,
It's like, no,
whatever,
you don't.
whatever. Yep. Yeah, it's about posters.
Yeah, this is really eye-opening though, because I had never done this before, and it's kind of oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I would expect normally you'd be looking at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paginations of a long list too, by the way. Like
Hmm.
the list goes even longer per page.
Yeah,
It is wild the stuff that it comes up on. But this is also a great opportunity. People watching this or just listening to this, this is exactly that. Over the past couple of years, all Amazon has seen or done with this book is exactly what you see here, and that's it. And just by looking at that can give you a clue of maybe, so if you had just published this, let's say it just happened and this is all. So, I give it 2, 3, 4 weeks before you check it. But when you check it, if that's all you saw, I would say, okay, Colleen, my number one recommendation to you is you really messed up somewhere on your keywords
sure,
because
clearly.
Amazon had no idea what to do and they just put you in the poster section or quote section, and that is it. Like,
Yeah,
ouch. So let this be the first time where we authors can actually see. It's like I always tell people, it's like putting on the goggles of Amazon and seeing through their eyes. And what they saw here was, I have no idea what this is about. I'm not going to show this to people, uh, based off of what they have. I'll just throw it around over here. We'll test it with here's some inspiration, maybe. So maybe some inspirational quotes, see what happens. Nothing happened. Okay, well, forget about it.
what's funny though is on my Amazon page, it shows up in for bestseller ranks. It shows up in Arthurian fantasy twice
Hmm.
and in Christian fantasy. So like it's clearly putting it in the right category.
Yeah. Yep. But I'll tell you this though, is that from the searches themselves,
Yeah.
people are not discovering your book, right?
Fair.
And
Yeah.
so what I'm seeing is people are looking for the book individually, which means they're hearing about the book from other places. But somebody
Directly from
coming to
me.
Amazon, well, there you go. See,
Yeah.
this is exactly what that is. If there are sales happening, they're sales because you're working to do it, not Amazon. Amazon, this list here proves that Amazon is not doing anything to help you out.
Okay.
So at least now, right now.
So I'm going to put in a second ASIN, and this is for a book that came out in February of this year, and it's by another friend of mine. Let's see how hers has done. This is for Son of Osivirius, a science fantasy novella, and hers is similarly not great.
Wow. What when did she publish?
February of this year.
Huh. Yeah, I would say that at this point one should expect more coming through, especially considering. All we got is literally just the title and
The
the
author.
author name. And while the title has gotten some searches, um, it's I would say that Amazon has not done much with the book at all.
Yeah.
And so if this person launched, what this will end up being, and this is, you know, give a high five hug to Catherine for me, because what I'm about to say might not be great, is that all of her sales that came from this 1 month launch came from her blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
And that something has happened where Amazon did not understand the book, did not help, did not work to put her book through something. And they're not, honestly, Amazon's not doing anything with it, which means once she stops working to promote the book, its sales are going to like tank. It's going to be
Tank.
reflective of her efforts. And that is a bummer. One of the, let's go ahead and do, if you can do a new reverse ASIN lookup, and let's go ahead and put in, let's say a book, that is a bit popular,
I was trying to find one, and
of a certain type.
this the one I'm about to put in is the number one bestseller in Arthurian fantasy and number five in fantasy overall in the Kindle store.
Okay.
Go get him, Rocket.
Oh yeah.
And it's taking longer. That I feel like that's a good sign. Okay.
Yeah. Let's
So
see. Let's scroll down and see how many paginations there are.
this is for Avalon Tower by C.N. Crawford and Alex Rivers. Oh, that's a lot longer. 10.
Oh, 10. And that's a much longer list. So
Yes.
this is let's say for example you're going to go publish a book like this, okay? You wrote a book like it, and I know authors take offense when I say this, but let's face it, look at there are books similar to yours.
Yes.
You didn't invent a brand new thing. There are really similar ones, okay? I love to go find them. And what I love is I love to find popular. I love what I call mid-level. Mid-levels are my favorite. And what I mean by that is not the most popular book of all time. I like the mid-levels because what I find is in the mid-levels, um, we'll have to scroll through about 1,000 words on this one.
Mm,
Okay. But a mid-level means it's making sales beyond the launch of the book, which means it did a good job. It's not going to show up for thousands of keywords, and I can really find some great opportunities. But at this point, what I would do is if you're a new author and this is, a book very, very similar to yours, just go through and start looking at the keyword phrases that they have here. And when you see a phrase that really resonates, like, oh, that's super good. Like, for example, we were looking at the second chance romance, and there was the one called widow second chance
yeah.
romance. You may say to yourself, oh, I didn't think about that, but that's an important element to my book is the widow aspect. I should totally have that in there. Which, yes, smart sassy FMC. I don't even know what FMC is.
Female main character.
There you go. That is definitely a phrase that sounds like a really good one.
Yeah.
People clearly would love a smart, sassy female main character. And I bet that you would see that combined with other things. There's like books like Onyx Storm, you know, like, people type this in. This is exactly what feathers so vicious. It's funny is I don't know what that means, but it might be the name of another book that Avalon Tower shows up for you
Okay.
know so sometimes you'll see an exact title because Amazon's linking them in a way because
Yeah.
somebody typed in the title for Feathers So Vicious. I don't know. I'm guessing that sounds like a pretty good title. And then saying, you know what, we think Avalon Tower is similar, and so we're just going to put it right under it for people to find. And so again, you're starting to see everything that's driving the continuous sales for this book without the author doing anything. And now you're starting to see some really interesting phrases that make sense, or wow, that's you as the author will know this. And by the way, I have a lot of people come to me and be like, "Hey, Dave, you're really big into keywords and understanding Amazon. Can you just do it for me?" And I
Mm.
tell people, "There's no way I can," because I had to ask that question. What's FMC? I don't know what that is. And they were like, Dave, be my main character. Whoops. Okay, sorry. Um, but the thing is like, for example, I love liter PG, right?
Yeah.
And literature role playing games was what it stands for. I love that genre. I know all the tropes. I know all the sub genres of it, right? I love, liter PG cultivation dungeon. That's my favorite. But I also know what those phrases mean and the very subtle differences between it and wuxia and all these other types of liter PG. Now, many of the people listening to what I just said is like, is he having a stroke? What are these words? I don't understand this. But that's the thing though, is if you didn't know that sub genre and these tropes and these words and these meanings and what's trendy, as all the hip kids say, like I don't know what the hip kids say.
Neither
So
do
how would
I.
I right? Well, I got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old, and I constantly am like, what? My son's like, man, he's got Riz. And I'm like, oh gosh, what is that? And he's like, well, it's charisma, Riz. Oh, that's kind of cool,
Oh,
buddy.
okay.
Um, yeah, no, I learned that one. But that's the thing though, is if somebody from the outside that doesn't understand the genre, the sub genre, the terminology, the tropes, the popular terms, will not be able to do good research for you. What's beautiful about the reverse ASAN feature is you can start to look, and you, knowing that sub genre, will say to yourself, oh my gosh, that's a great. I never thought FMC. I never thought widow. I never thought, and you'll see some wild terms that will just resonate. And so, honestly, this is like instead of being creative and coming up with it, this is just seeing what works and copying and pasting. And then you can really build your 7 KDP keyword boxes with stuff. And what I love most about this is that Amazon has associated these phrases with this particular book. And if you do a good job of putting together your 7 KDP keyword boxes in the image of these similar books, Amazon's going to say to itself, hey, you know what? These 5 books here, we showed for these phrases, and boy, this book here is saying it's also of those same phrases. I wonder if they're similar. And all of a sudden, your book will not only start showing up for those phrases, it'll start showing up for tertiary phrases that are also connected to those other books. It's a much easier way. It's sort of like, let's go back to that analogy of the slip, right, that you fill out for the bookstore clerk.
Yeah.
What if you were to say that my book is just like these 5 books? And the clerk knows that those 5 books are located in one specific area.
Mm.
Guess what? They are going to feel even more confident to put your book right next to them
Yeah.
because they know, right? It's not going to be like, okay, let me interpret, let me figure out. No. So this is why getting your 7 KDP keywords so well and connected and in alignment with what Amazon would expect a book like that to be will help to expand the reach and have it that people can discover your book. So coming back to it, the keyword search feature is really cool because you can start looking in, you could guess at things. But the reverse ASIN feature is the one where it's like the easy button. It's being able to see what actually works, finding out how books are doing, and even self-diagnosing your own book.
Which we just did.
Yeah,
But in terms of using these phrases that other people are searching for in your own 7 Amazon keyword boxes, something
yep,
that this does is it highlights in orange words that are not allowed in those 7 boxes. So
absolutely.
how would an author go about taking advantage of the high reach of a phrase like books like Onyx Storm, but the word books can't be in that keyword box?
Yeah. So a couple of things that come from this, and number one is that these phrases on the left are exactly what Amazon shoppers have typed into Amazon. Okay.
Okay.
And so we didn't want to call those out, and say, well, because it says books or free books or something like that, we don't want to show you the information. We wanted authors to be able to see that, hey, clearly if you're connected with Onyx Storm, if you really are seen as a books like Onyx Storm, you're going to benefit, right? So it's good knowledge for the author. We highlight the bad words so that you don't put them in there so that, Amazon then flags you. Okay. Now, so let's say, for example, romance fantasy Kindle books. And it's the first one that I see there. There's probably way better phrases or cool or unique phrases. This one's very broad, but let's just pretend that romance fantasy was more niche. Okay. So is romance fantasy Kindle books? You may say to yourself, well, I can't look at this information here saying that, average amount in sales is $57,000. Average searches per month is about 22,000 people, and it's a pretty low competition score. That's actually really good. That looks pretty cool. But then you're saying to yourself, well, I can't use it because it has Kindle books in the phrase. My statement is this. So if you're looking at romance fantasy, okay, because you have a Kindle version, because you're probably going to produce an ebook, okay, and a book, Amazon already looks at that information. And so it knows that, hey, if you rank for romance fantasy, you should absolutely rank for romance fantasy Kindle books as well. And romance fantasy Kindle and romance fantasy books and all those different variations of the format type. So, in truth, you don't want to put the Kindle books in there, but it should give more credence to the phrase romance fantasy. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So the
And
big thing here is we just mark, hey, don't use free books, free Kindle books, or books and those sort of things inside your 7 KDP keywords. But do note that hey, this information should help you with the first part, which is romance fantasy.
so those 7 KDP keywords should be things that don't necessarily have a lot of these orange highlighted words, but more that are specific to your book, like Smart Sassy FMC, where that's going to show up for that keyword when somebody searches for it.
Yep. And here's how I really like to approach my 7 KD keyword boxes. First and foremost is that you can put 50 characters in each box. A
Nice.
character is a letter, space, punctuation, etc. Okay. A lot of people then say, well, they put like one phrase in each box, and I'm like, hey, you're kind of missing because you can put more information in it, right? Think of it like, again, go into the store clerk and what you write on there. If you just write fantasy, uh, smart, sassy, um, fantasy fiction,
Hmm.
uh, romance. Like, yeah, I kind of get an idea, but I don't really. So what I love to do is that at least two of the boxes, I find one exact phrase that I love. Okay, let's say in here it's like you. I'm gonna make something up based off of some of the things I see. But what if it's like unique fantasy with smart, sassy female main character? Okay.
Hmm.
Let's say I find that phrase. Now that phrase is a really good phrase, right? And I'd almost look for something a little bit more because I want to get a lower subgenre of fantasy. There's got to be a subgenre, subgenre of fantasy that fits me better. But with if there's, or also if it's a romance, right? There's got to be a spicy level too,
Yeah.
right? Some people want wholesome Christian, some people want, on the other side of the coin, some people want in the middle. There's words that describe it, and the type of romance is going to be key to the reader. So the reader always adds those kind of phrases in there of, okay, I don't want all the dudes to not have their shirts on, or clothes optional. Okay, like people have a preference. Um, and they're going to put that in their phrases. So what I do is I would do research to find an exact phrase that I love that people type in and looks good. And I use two of my boxes, one phrase in one exact phrase in another. Now for the rest of the boxes, I love to find groupings. Like, let's say I didn't use the smart, sassy female main character, okay? But I will put that phrase in there. Then I will put another phrase in inside the same box, which is like gripping romance with spice, unique fantasy, and I will fill in the other boxes with as many phrases that I can that have really specific good words. I do not want broad single phrases. I want something that in the end, the way you did a good job on your 7 KDP keyword boxes is that if you were to hand them that here's all the phrases, handed it to somebody off the street who doesn't know you, doesn't know what you write, or anything like that, and you tell them, look, this is a grouping of words and phrases. Can you kind of tell me what you think the book is about? And if the person
Ooh,
can't figure it out, they can't describe it, they can't give you actual legit good details, and guess what? It's
it's
do you
going
think
in a
Amazon's going to
miscellaneous
do better?
pile.
Yeah, exactly. Amazon's not going to do anything with it. So you can really tell, like, when I said the whole Victorian second chance romance with family, right? That phrase alone almost describes the entire book, right? It's Victorian era, right? Finding love again, but it's clear that the person's with family. Now I could put more words in there, like widow, with child. And family
Hmm.
is, yeah, I got it, but she's with child trying to find love again.
Oh,
Like now we
it's
know
really
the kind of,
specific.
yeah, we know what the main character is going to face. It's Victorian era society. Noses are up in the air. She is with child. She does not have, she's got to find Mr. Right, the right that wants a family, not, a fling.
Yeah.
And you might want to add something in there, like, wholesome Christian. Even though the whole aspect of she's a child looking for a man who wants a family probably already maybe leans more towards the wholesome Christian, probably not in the spicy, spicy level. But these words are important. And if just that one phrase should tell a majority of the story, and if my phrases combine and all of a sudden you get a really crystal clear picture about what this is, so does Amazon. And when Amazon feels comfortable about knowing what your book is about, Amazon will do more. And when
Do the
Amazon does
work.
more, yep, great books deserve to be read.
Love it. Okay, so we have a
So,
couple other features. Competition analyzer, keyword search, and Amazon ads. Which one did you want to hit first?
well, I would say let's go to the competition analyzer. Now, this is where it's like, okay, I found a keyword phrase and I just want to know what kind of books are showing up for it. Okay, this is what I love about it. So, yeah, smart, good call. I'm very curious to
Smart,
see what
sassy
shows up here.
FMC.
So now what it's doing is it's going through Amazon and it's going to find all the books that rank, in Amazon. By the way, for some people, this is using pure raw Amazon data. Okay. And what I mean by that is that sometimes your search pattern, your history of purchases will affect how Amazon ranks books a little bit. So what this does is it gets it clean without your shopping. So in this particular case, when you do the competition analyzer, it looks like I think you chose book.
Oh,
See if you do new search just to see the pop-up.
oh yeah.
Because what you
Uh,
have here is you could, okay, books, Kindle only, Audible only, or ASIN specific searches. Now, here's what books is. Just like on Amazon, if you select the drop-down category of books, it will choose any format, but it's definitely going to be a book. Okay. So it could show Audible, it could show ebook, it could show print book. If
okay.
you choose Kindle, it will only show you ebooks. And if you choose Audible, it will only show you audiobooks. So really that word books there is just any format, but it's got to be a book. Don't show me lipstick. Don't show me,
Yeah.
clothing. I only want books. Now, what's funny about that is when you do type in books, it tells you a little bit about the market. Because what's funny is the first thing I see here is every book listed is an audiobook, which means
Oh,
that audiobooks seem to be really, really popular for books that are about smart, sassy female main characters. So you can almost use that as a really cool data point if you're writing a smart female, smart, sassy female character. I mean, just about every one of them except for the last two are Kindle.
yeah.
So, and that's a first for me. I haven't seen that heavy of an audiobook, but that is wild.
So
Okay,
authors listening, if you want to write a smart, sassy FMC book, it's got to be an audio.
yeah, you got to plan for an audio because that is clearly the
Clearly the winner.
yeah, tout du jour right there. So, but now what we do though is we can start looking at the books that rank for that phrase. Okay. Um, so we'll go ahead and
So,
type in Smart Sassy FMC for Kindle only,
yep.
see what shows up. Do, 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 do. Pulling all the information, pulling all the data, doing the crunching, figuring out the sales. And there you have it. Now we have just the Kindle versions. And they're also different books. That is
Top one is
fascinating too.
still, it's still this top one though. The Heartless by Elsie Silver came up on both for audiobook and Kindle as the first one.
Nice. That doesn't surprise me. Usually something for like that would have consistency. But notice though that we definitely don't have the same exact list, right?
Yeah.
Now, what we do here is we can start to look at the books. Let's say you're going to write a smart, sassy FMC. Matter of fact, it's even better when you have like a full-fledged statement that describes the type of books, because then you can look at the kind of books, see if there's any similar ones like to yours, right? But we have the title, the subtitle. We show the number of reviews, which wow, Heartless has 130,000 reviews of the ebook.
229. Yeah.
Unreal. Okay. If we want, we can see all the categories the book is a part of. If you click that link there, it says see categories. And now we can see what they're a part of. And we can learn information about it. Maybe see if any of those are ones that we want to be. Okay. It also tells you the age of the book. And what's crazy about this book is that it's what, 3 years, 4 years? Go
Oh,
click
is
back.
that? Oh, yeah.
So,
1271 for days, right?
so it's about 4 years that this book has been out. And yet its Amazon bestseller rank is 504. So it's the 504th best-selling book on all of Amazon. So Heartless is crushing it. A small town single dad romance. Which, by the way, I love reading the subtitles of books because basically most of the time the subtitle is the keywords that this person definitely focused on.
Yeah.
But let me be clear here to authors. I'm always a big proponent of fiction using subtitles. And I know some people say, well, you're keyword stuffing. Let me be clear. The keyword itself is the word that the shopper uses to look for the book that they want. That is big because, in truth, um, if you think about it, let's say I searched for, small town single dad romance, okay? And there's a book called Heartless, but that's all it says is Heartless. And I see a guy and a girl hugging each other, okay? Or embracing in a very romantic way. Am I Nothing about the cover or the title of Heartless tells me that this is the right kind of book for me.
Yeah.
But then when I see the subtitle that says "A Small Town Single Dad Romance," I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm much more likely to click and read the book description than I am if I don't. There's this apparently like Western romance called Hitch. Okay, and I love giving this example because what it is it's a cowboy, maybe kind of, it's a shadow of a dude sitting on his horse up on a hilltop, and there's fireworks that are going off. If I didn't, and apparently the author of this, everybody knows, is a Western romance or something. I don't know. But if I didn't know who the author was, which I don't still, I would never know what kind of book it is. I can't tell from the cover. I can't tell from the one word, title called Hitch. I am definitely not. I'll just click on the book I'm more familiar with, the one that tells me I'm in the right spot. So I tell authors all the time, hey, a good subtitle not only helps Amazon figure out more about what you have a higher chance to rank better for small town single dad romance than, with a subtitle that says that than without it. But also too, to the shopper, I need to see that. Same thing with litter PG cultivation. You can't make a book cover that tells me that it is litter PG cultivation. But I want a good litter PG cultivation. So how do you convince me that this is litter PG cultivation? Put in the subtitle. And now I feel much more comfortable saying, okay, yep, that is a that's the kind of book I'm looking for, right? So don't knock those, but I do love reading some of these subtitles because I'm like, oh, that is a perfect way to describe the book. Small town, single dad, romance. You know, I'll bet you dude lives in a small town.
He's a
He's a
single
single
dad.
dad. He's got little to no people to choose from, and I'll bet you, bottom dollar here that this one lady shows up, maybe from the big city, maybe life has gotten her down, and or her car breaks down, and she meets this small town single dad, and maybe being a part of a family is what she looks for most. I mean, the stuff writes itself, right? So,
Pretty much. Which kind of goes to
so,
show that
anyways.
you can use this as market research before you even start writing a book.
Oh yeah. I love it. Matter of fact, when I go to start a book, I bring out Publisher Rocket and I start to look at what books I might be next to. I start to look for some of the things they accentuate. When I work on my book cover, I definitely use my keywords because I want to know, hey, if I typed in any of these phrases in Amazon, what kind of cover would I want to see that helps to say, yes, that is. And when I contract a book cover designer, I send them my keywords. I'm like, hey, these are
Nice.
the phrases people will type into Amazon, and I need you to create a cover that says, yes, this is that kind of book. So, if these aspects are important, like for example, Heartless, I would give a little criticism here is there's nothing on that cover that really tells me that this is a single dad romance. Okay. Uh, but that being said though, is, if the book cover designer will know that, hey, this kind of imagery is important for this type of genre. Okay, a good book cover designer will know that. But what they can do is that they might put like in the background, instead of it being this, open air area, it might show a small town,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Or small town looking houses, because now you see the setting in the back and now you can put it together. One time I was working with an author and she had this really cool main character standing solo with like a backdrop. But it was a blurry backdrop. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But we did her keyword research. And again, this is way back when I tried doing it with people, which again, if you don't know the subject under terms, good luck. But what's funny is Publisher Rocket kept coming up with the word gaslamp. And I'm like, I don't understand this. She goes, oh no, that's perfect. I'm like, well, what do you mean? And she says, well, that is a time period,
Yeah.
like in London, and it was when they used gas lamps instead of candles or electricity. It's this period of time in between. And so she was like, "That's amazing." So what they did was that because it was highly searched, because that's a perfect like combination, she had the cover designer add gas lamps in the background, and then all of a sudden it changed from I don't know what time period this is, which by the way, a time period in a fiction is really big, but it changed it from I don't know to oh, with just one tiny little thing in the background. It changes the time period, it changes the element, it changes what the main character is going to be facing. And so again, I really love to have my keywords when I go to contract my cover designer. And then they find little nuances to add that tell a bit more of the story and connects better. So super cool to do that again before you start writing, to understand when you're building your book cover, as you start your marketing campaign, and then when you fill in your 7 KDP keywords.
Yep. Okay. Category search and Amazon ads. So how
Yeah.
does category search work?
Well, so Amazon has over 14,000 categories on their store. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot. And when you go to publish on KDP, you can click through and find them. But here's the kicker. Many of them are fake categories. Okay. So the ones that Amazon offers you, they're called ghost categories. And what it means is you can never be a bestseller for that category, and there is no page on Amazon for that category page. So and by the way, 1 out of every 4 categories is a ghost.
That is
So
lame.
if you end up selecting a ghost category, let's say all 3 of your categories are ghost categories, you will find. And so notice, right, there's these little bubbles in there. So there's selectable and there's duplicate. Scroll
So
down until you see
I just searched for fantasy and it popped up with a list of multiple categories. We got selectable and duplicate as the little bubbles.
yep. Now scroll down until you see one that says ghost. There's a ghost.
Ah, okay.
Let's see. So, children's ebooks, science fiction, fantasy, and scary stories, science fiction, general. So, all 4 of those, right, and the ones under it, they're all ghosts. They're fake. They don't exist. You can't find that page. And so, I tell people 100% never choose a ghost category. They do nothing for you.
So that begs
I
the question, why is it selectable?
So because Amazon, what happened is that Amazon, this is my theory as to why they even have ghosts, is that there's 14,000 categories, which means every time they created a new category, they'd have to create a new page. They'd have to change up their
Oh,
sitemap. That could cause problems on the store. The store is very dynamic. It's a very hardcore, well-developed program, Amazon.com is. So as you have all these requests for new categories, why not just make ones where it's like, okay, sure, you can select it and tells our algorithm what you're about, but we don't have to do all this other stuff. And they're always adding ghost categories. The other thing that I found out too is that you will find that political or maybe topics that one side might hate and one
uh,
side might like, mass majority of those are ghosts. Because let's face it, like for example, if I don't know, I'm making something up here, so please don't hold me on this. But let's say there was a category that was like Nazi,
mm.
okay? And um, what's to say what would happen if somehow a book ranked number 1 for Nazi? Now imagine the political backfire that would occur, right? The bad PR, all of it. And so they start to mark these ghosts so that, okay, it does exist. I don't know if there's a Nazi category, so please don't hold me to that. But I was just trying to find something that, you know. But let's just say they say, okay, well, there's this category, but we don't ever have to face showing that we rank books for it. we don't have to deal like, okay, we gave you this, you know, whatever political group, we gave you your own little category, but we don't have to deal with the aftermath of people finding the wrong book on this or something that's terrible or heinous, and then Amazon has to answer for it. So um, it was interesting, by the way, a fun little side story was sticking to it. There was a news article a couple years ago where Mein Kampf had hit bestseller on
Oh,
Amazon.
oh,
But hold on. So everybody on the outside saw this was like, and then every news outlet was saying, well, it's because you know this rise, and this was maybe 10 years ago, so a long time ago, not in the current political realm, but um, they everybody all the news outlets were trying to guess at what drove the sales. You know, like, oh, you know, the German youth or this and that. Like, I mean, it was the wildest thing to read. Every news outlet had a reason that was trying to say why the sales occurred. Here's the thing though. This was in the time where like Publisher Rocket had just been built and the sales were like maybe only like four or five. What happened was that the person picked some obscure category on Amazon where four or
oh.
five sales, and by the way, it's public domain, so you know, but four or five sales would be enough to get a bestseller, you know, in like recipe. So nobody looked at what the category was, but everybody was flipping out over the bestseller thing, and it became like national news, international news for that matter. So I say that story because Amazon's also, you know, in this particular case, if they do create a category, they don't want to have to suffer for anything. So you will see a lot of that, or you'll just see some weird ones, like just science. Look at this: science fiction and fantasy. Fantasy general is a ghost. That's a big category. How many people want to be in science fiction, fantasy? Ouch.
Everybody.
Yeah. So if anybody selected that, you cannot be a bestseller. So I love this feature because it does tell you what is a ghost category and what isn't. Tells you what's selectable. Also, to a lot of categories are really just duplicates of others. But my favorite thing about this is, can you go ahead and click on that sales to number one? It's the column at the top. It will arrange this from hardest in this case. So click on there we go. Easiest to be a bestseller to hardest. So now we can see all of these categories that all you need to do is make one sale, and you are now the new bestseller. So sometimes you can type in or you can select main categories and just start to look to see if there's any categories that you know that you could validate your book being a part of.
So
And
when I
now all you have
started
to do is make a sale.
when I was researching this more to come up with the questions for you, I did this exact search and I
Yeah.
found this, the Kindle books, science fiction and fantasy, science fiction, TV, movie, video game adaptations, Stargate. And then I immediately went and I tried to find that page on Amazon. I'm like, no, I can't find it.
Oh, if you click that link there where it says Stargate, it should take you right to it.
Oh man. You okay. Yeah, it did.
See?
Amazon bestsellers. It's just a whole list of Stargate books.
There it is. So yeah, so what's really cool about this is you'd be surprised how many awesome opportunities are out there. There are a lot, like I said, there's 14,000 categories. The system will tell you exactly what categories, tell you how many sales that month you need to make in order to be bestseller. You can also learn to see what percentage of books that show up for it are either by big time publishers or not. So here's that percentage, right? And the Doctor Who category, 92% of all books that rank for that are made by big time publishers, which kind of
Probably
makes sense,
because you
right?
need the permission for the copyright.
Probably. It's very interesting to see what the other 8% is. But
Yeah.
it could be people who, you know, it's not a Doctor Who, but it's like a Doctor Who. So people put themselves in the
Right.
Doctor Who. The other thing, too, is it shows you the percentage of books that are KU. So in this particular category, one has 58% of books being KU, another one has less than five. And okay, the less than five makes absolute sense because it's manga.
Hmm.
Graphic novels, yeah, and manga. So yeah, you're not going to see a lot of ebooks on that one, and not a lot of KU for that matter. So some of these kind of make sense, right? So these are really cool things. Also, too, if you click Insights, the button to the right of one, Publisher Rocket will then tell you like, you know, the number of sales, and this one only, you know, only takes one sale to be number one. So you can see there's really not a lot of sales that come from that category. But
Yeah.
now you can start to really learn a lot more about that category. If we pick something like really big or so, we'll see some pretty wild stuff.
Scroll all the
But it
way
gives
up.
suggestions, it gives information. And so,
So for science fiction, sales to number one, 5,780. in one
in a
day.
day. Hmm. But you could see that there's a spike and an increase in sales in from January, February, March. The average amount of money from books that are in that bestseller has almost doubled the average. So it's a really high trend. Sales per month have gone up 859 on average, and it gives you information about the books that show up. So, like I said, this is a really cool way to learn a little bit more. You could also click that button in the top right that says see related categories. So you can see other categories that are like this. So you can find other opportunities. Like if you really like that category, see what else is out there.
Hmm.
Now, that one's a very broad category, so you'll see a lot, but still a fun way for people to discover. The key thing about this feature, category search, is that it was developed to make it easy for you to find the right category out of 14,000. The one that best fits your book will help you to be a bestseller faster and ensure that you're not being put in a ghost category that hurts your book. And again, gives you really cool insight about the trend of your genre, what's happening, and some key things to think about.
So, some of these don't have a bubble that says selectable, duplicate, or ghost. What does that mean?
In that particular case, so it's one of those where it military itself might not be selectable because it's really a subgenre to something else, and the next niche down will do it. So there might be I'm going to make this up, but books, science fiction and fantasy, science fiction, military, and then space invasion. And space
Okay,
invasion is the one you can click. You can't select military.
got it. Okay,
So it's like a node, if you will.
okay, but it still shows up as a category that it ranks for.
Because let's say, for example, military has like five subgenres under it. So it's like military, space invasion, military, intergalactic war, military, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? If I select space invasion, military space invasion, and I'm number one in space invasion, and I happen to beat out all the other books that are in the sub five genres, then my book also ranks in military alone. I can't
Got it.
select military, but because I selected sooner, if I really do well in sales, I go up the chain.
Okay.
So that right there says that let's say there's five subgenres under military. Out of all those five subgenres, 450 sales per month would get you number one in the node above.
Okay. So then for Amazon ads, is this how useful is this for people who don't want to run Amazon ads, or is this specifically for people who want to run Amazon ads?
Yeah, this is specifically for people who want to run Amazon ads. So we do this system where the best way to do Amazon ads in 2026 is you want relevancy. And by the way, for anybody who is thinking about doing ads, I have a free course, free video course, teaches you everything you know about Amazon ads. And you can find it just going to amscourse.com,
Okay.
amscourse.com. But ultimately, like I said, the best way is you want phrases that help Amazon to feel more comfortable about your book. You want relevancy. So we build the system where it's like, okay, start inputting information about your book. And then we'll look at your book through the eyes of Amazon, and then we'll help you to come up with all the things you should target. The books, the ASINs, the keyword phrases, everything. And so it really helps to like figure out your book and then provide you with the things you should target for your ads.
Would you recommend people only do ads for first in series, or do you see success with later books in a series?
That depends. If the first book in the series is doing really well, okay, as in like, you're driving people to it. I love to do ads for the next book that comes out in the series. And the reason for that is Amazon is smart enough to know that, hey, this shopper over here, Dave Chesson, has bought book one, two, three, and four, but hasn't bought in book five. So, but Dave just happened to type in this keyword phrase searching for something. Let's go ahead and put that product in front of that phrase so that might let Dave know that book five has come out.
It's like, just so you know, go
Yeah,
buy
really.
it.
It's one of those things where I've seen it's funny as I've seen book five in a series that I love show up for an entirely different genre. Like I don't remember what it was I was searching, but I was like, that's hilarious.
It's like, because Amazon knows all.
Yeah. So, but I was like, good point, because I did buy the book. Because I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I was waiting for that guy to come out.
Oh, that's hilarious. Is there anything in Publisher Rocket that you wanted to touch on that we didn't get to?
No, I think that's it. The last thing I will say is that we have incredible tutorials. We have a tutorial page that really gives you kind of understanding on how to do what we talked about. And we have videos. And again, it will walk you through each of the steps. So if you saw something, didn't fully understand something, um, want guidance on some of the key features or what the next step is, I'm a big fan of education. And so we really put a lot into those videos to help people out. So if this looked like it was a little confusing or a little hard, don't worry, got you covered there.
And we'll link to the tutorials in the show description. All right. Thank you again for coming on to talk about this. This was really insightful for me, and I hope it will be for everybody who watches it.
Absolutely, Colleen. Well, this is fun. And again, thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That is it for today's episode. Thanks for joining us. And remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage.